Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we have a huge episode starting off with some breaking news before we compete in the double for the Monaco Grand Prix as well as the Coca-Cola 600. So like I just mentioned, some breaking news to start this episode involving Joey Logano. Now as you can see here, NASCAR announces this week that Joey Logano will be placed on probation once again for the second time this season. And in a quote from Steve O'Donnell, if he runs into us intentionally this weekend at Charlotte, he will be suspended for a race. This probation being much more severe compared to the previous one handed to him. So yes, if Logano just simply runs into us on purpose, puts us in the wall, he will be suspended. On the previous probation, he had to actually wreck me to get himself a suspension. He never did turn us around in that 3-race probation, so he never did get suspended. But this time, if he runs into us on purpose, puts us into the wall or something, you will see him missing one of the next races. But we come through now into the race weekend, into the Truck Series race for the North Carolina Education Lottery 200, where we had subscriber Travis Dean in the truck for us here as he would get underway with a very good qualifying effort inside of the top 10 now. And there's some things that are a little bit different this episode where I split up qualifying for the Cup Series from the race because I tried to kind of keep it more realistic to a race weekend where you're going to see qualifying for the Cup Series, then you're going to see the Formula 1 race, and then the NASCAR race. So we'll see that here momentarily now, as this is definitely one of a lengthier episode, I should say, compared to what we normally have now. So definitely settle in and get ready for a lot of action now, as I can tell you right now. We have a very good Coca-Cola 600 on the way now, as you see Travis Dean though going 3 wide here after completing the first lap, moving himself up inside the top 5 as he went down into turn 1, up the inside of the 18 truck, and very quickly Travis moved himself up into P3. He would also go on to pass Johnny Sauter for the second position and then try to run down Stuart Friesen there in the 52 truck here as he was going down into turn 3. So Travis Dean putting on a good run for us so far. And we've already got 3 wins with this team this season here in the Truck Series, so it's been a great season so far, and we feel like we really are just getting started. So now, as Travis was starting to put some pressure on to Friesen, he and Stuart were both driving away from the third place and on back drivers now as we came through, now approaching though the final moments of this race. We're going to cut through to the final lap here in Charlotte for the NC Education Lottery 200, and now Travis made a move up the inside of Friesen into turn 1 as they would be side by side. Through the center of 1 and out of turn 2, Friesen being on the outside is able to kind of pin down Travis, and Travis had to get out of the throttle, but now Travis side drafts Stewart down the back straightaways. They're going to continue to be side by side into turn 3 on this final lap here in Charlotte Motor Speedway through the center of 3 and 4. Who's going to come here first now as we come through out of turns 4, coming to the line down the front straightaway? It looks like it's going to be Travis with the advantage, and sure enough, he would come through to win in Charlotte, and that would be the 4th win on the season for our Truck Series team now, as that was a side-by-side finish right to the line as you see the finishing order on your screen there. At the very bottom it was Jennifer Jo Cobb, but like I just mentioned, 4th win on the season for our team, and we have just been dominating so far as a team. It's been great for us now in our 2nd season as a Truck Series owner. Of course, our 1st season as an Xfinity Series owner is going alright. We picked up a win at Bristol, I believe it was, and now we will be, I myself will be in the Xfinity car here today for the Charlotte race now, as Travis Dean though picks up the 4th victory of the season for our Truck Series team. So we come through into the Xfinity Series race here in Charlotte, and just kind of like the Truck Series, we had a good qualifying effort, like I just mentioned. Myself though this time in the car trying to pick up the victory like we did just recently here for the first time with this new team. So definitely don't quite have the performance we've fully been looking for so far with this Xfinity Series team, but we've definitely been picking it up now as you would get underway here for the Allsco 300. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it for this video now as we go down into turn 1. So up inside the top 10 immediately, the 18, he moved over to the right side of the track. I said, okay, I'm just going to take that opportunity. Look to the inside here as we came through out of turn 2, already into the top 5, trying to make a move for the 2nd position up the inside of the 20, driven by Christian Eckes as we go down into turn 3. Michael Annett leading the way, and it was not hard at all for myself to make some passes. We moved into the 2nd position very quickly here as we came through out of turn 4, coming through to complete this opening lap, already up the inside of Michael Annett for the lead here as we came through to complete that first lap. As we went down into turn 1, we would clear him And that was pretty much it for the rest of this race in terms of being under pressure now, as I would be able to open up a gap throughout this race now as it went on to the field. As you see in second place, the 21, I believe that was actually, of Alfredo trying to run us down now as we came through out of turn 4, but absolutely no pressure whatsoever. So we came through now approaching the final lap here in Charlotte Motor Speedway, going down the back straightaway, trying to back up the victory that Travis Dean just got for us in the Truck Series side of things. And now myself driving here on the Xfinity side, we're going to come through out of turn 4, and for the second time this season as an Xfinity owner, we're going to come through to pick up the victory here in Charlotte. So very, very happy with that one, of course, now as once again starting this episode off very, very well now, as we just picked up our second Cup win of the season, by the way, of course, in the last episode, as you guys remember, at Martinsville Speedway, and a great finish in a nice battle with some young drivers like Harrison Burton and whatnot. So that was one heck of a battle now as we would get ready to do our burnout. But now what happens next is we get ready to do qualifying here Saturday afternoon after the Xfinity Series race for the Cup Series side of things. Now, unfortunately, for the Formula 1 side of things, I'm going to have to start at the very back of the field in the Haas car, because I did not compete in qualifying because we were here in Charlotte now as we would get ready for Cup Series qualifying, though, and you see something a little bit different on your screen. This is the very first modded custom paint scheme I personally have ever made, and it's a Ritz car. We're vibing in the Ritz car. We came through to start qualifying, just a one race deal. I promised you guys last season, I said, okay, we'll do a one-off race with a Ritz paint scheme, and I made this one. I had a couple different ideas and they didn't look that great, so I ended up using this one, but I make a mistake in qualifying through turns 3 and out of turns 4, so that would kind of hurt the lap now as we came through down the front straightaway to cross the line here with a 29.904, and we qualify unfortunately down in 22nd place for the Coca-Cola 600 now, so we might as well just have went to Monaco early and competed in qualifying there. But there you see the qualifying order. I'm starting to get some of the numbers changed around. I mentioned that to someone in the last episode. Kyle Larson now has the 5 there on your screen in the results, but I still got to get a few more fixed up, like the 88 car of William Byron and whatnot, and Eric Jones as well, who still shows 77. But there you see, though, up front, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. will lead the way to the green to the Coca-Cola 600 on Sunday. But now we come through into Sunday morning here for the Monaco Grand Prix to start the double.
Nelson Piquet once said that driving the Circuit de Monaco was like riding a bicycle around your living room, and it's not hard to see what he means by that. There's no more prestigious a Grand Prix victory than Monaco, but also none so challenging. The astonishing Circuit de Monaco is, for all intents and purposes, virtually unchanged since its inaugural race back in 1929. The faster cars of today, though, ensure the 19 corners past the casino and along the seafront remain as thrilling as ever. A 2.1-mile lap here takes us around an entire country, yet never more than inches from the race-ending barriers. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
There are 3 main things to worry about there, Crofty: positioning, awareness and discipline. First, you have to put your car in a bit of space and make sure you have room to react to what the others are doing. Then you have to watch your mirrors and listen to the sounds around you to get a sense of where everyone is. And finally, just don't get too greedy. Just because a gap exists doesn't always mean you should go for it.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Vettel, Charles Leclerc and Albon, Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo and Lance Stroll, Norris, Kvyat, Pierre Gasly and Ocon, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Romain Grosjean and George Russell, Latifi and the rookie. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Alright, there you have the introduction there from David Croft as well as Anthony Davidson as we get ready to take part in our first F1 crossover race from the NASCAR side here to complete the double of the Monaco Grand Prix as well as the Coca-Cola 600. Usually what you see is the Indianapolis 500 in the Coca-Cola 600, but I wanted to do Monaco and the Coca-Cola 600, which I've done a few times now on the channel with past NASCAR games, so very excited for this opportunity here, and hopefully we can do very well now as we get a radio message from Jeff.
Okay, let's push early on and gain some places. If we do, we should be able to match our result from the last race.
So we get ready to take the green here in Monaco, replacing the recently suspended Nikita Mazepin now, as we would get ready for the formation lap. As I mentioned, we had to start at the back, so we would go all the way around here and get ready to take the green flag here in the Monaco Grand Prix with Lewis Hamilton as well as Valtteri Bottas up at the front of the field now, as it's 5 red lights and we are underway for our very first Formula 1 crossover race here from the NASCAR side, as Lewis Hamilton gets off to a tremendous start over his teammate Valtteri Bottas now as they exit turn 1. It was 3 wide actually in the back between the 2 Ferraris of Vettel as well as Charles Leclerc, along with I believe that was a Red Bull of Alex Albon now, as I got off to a bit of a rough start myself. You can see a bit of a disconnection from the cars up ahead there, as you see a fellow Canadian of mine, Nicholas Latifi there in the Williams. 3 Canadians here in the field for the Monaco Grand Prix, myself, Nicholas Latifi, as well as Lance Stroll there in the Racing Point. Now, as I would actually lunge up the left-hand side of Latifi here into the iconic Monaco hairpin now, as we would complete the pass nearly on him. He would actually stay up my right-hand side and try to force it right here, and then I would kind of go a little bit deep and hold on to the 19th position at least. And as you guys know, Haas definitely not the greatest car in the F1 grid, so I wasn't expecting a great finish here in Monaco now, as we were now trying to run down Latifi's teammate of George Russell. As you can see, I was on a different tire compound as well, as I was on the medium tire. The rest of these drivers around us, they were all on the soft tire, so I was still trying to do my best here to run down this next group of cars, and it wasn't that hard. Of course, with everybody just kind of being grouped up together here, we would get to the Williams of George Russell now, as we came through on lap 2, approaching lap 3, as I was trying my best to stick with him. DRS, of course, would get turned on, so we came through to the end now of lap 3, and I used that DRS to try and get to the back of Russell, but he had DRS from Antonio Giovinazzi, so I couldn't unfortunately make a move quite yet. So we just kind of continue running in this 19th position now, as we came through towards the end of the 4th lap. Then we came through down the front straightaway. This time no DRS for Russell, but I do get the DRS, so we get right up to his gearbox as we go down into turn 1. And actually a bit of a lockup there from George Russell, and that opens the door for me to go by and get the pass made on him now, as I was thinking about lunging up his inside, but his lockup just made it a free pass for me instead now, as we came through, moving up into P18 now, as we try to run down Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo now, as our teammate was actually Roman Grosjean here, and he was just up in front of Giovinazzi now. As Grosjean, though, he would come in to the pit lane and now give up the position to myself, as I am right on the back of Giovinazzi now as we go down towards turns 1, and then sure enough, the next lap later, he would actually come into the pit lane as well. So I'm staying out here, but a bunch of other drivers had come into the pit lane that were up front, like Sebastian Vettel, my favorite driver on the grid. So I get out of his way, as he's going to go by his teammate of Charles Leclerc, as well as Alex Albon's right up there in front of him, but he couldn't quite get to his back gearbox and pass him, so he would kind of settle in P5. So we came through now on to lap 9. I might give a bit of a mistake right there, but fortunately we do hold on to the car. But I was running P7, but the cars behind us that were much quicker than had come into the pit lane, like Sergio Perez for the Racing Point, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, they were all closing the gap on me. So I get out of the way on the front straightaway. I let Perez go, as well as Carlos Sainz, and now Lance Stroll, he was up into P11, but Lando Norris, he was the next car behind me, closing in on the back of us now as we come through up the hill here. As I get to the left, let him go by, and we drop now down to P10. So really just trying to hang on to get to that first pit stop now as we come through, now past the halfway point of this race. Is actually make a mistake, and we take the right front tire right off the car out of nowhere. One little mistake is all it takes at the Monaco Grand Prix, and our race was over just like that now, as I clipped that little barrier on the right, kind of like Max Verstappen did a few years ago in qualifying, and that was the end of our day. Lewis Hamilton ended up coming out with the victory here in Monaco, but that was so disappointing. So we made it about half the race or so, as I'll show you guys the finishing order now, as we were closing in on a pit stop. But yeah, very disappointing to say the least now, as that we would end up being the only DNF here in the Monaco Grand Prix, with a fellow Canadian of Latifi down there, P19, Stroll up there in P10. So we come through now, we would actually take off. Here we got some Microsoft Flight Simulator taking off from an airport close to Monaco now, as we would be heading over to Charlotte. We would land at Charlotte and get ready to go green here for the Coca-Cola 600 now, as we made it back in time for the start of the race here. So very excited to get this one underway, fresh off of our second win of the season. Alright boys, we've had a good stretch of races recently there, with the win last week, and then we had the win earlier, Talladega or whatever, so 2 wins now on the season, so hopefully we can make it 3 tonight. Honestly, I think we got a really good car, proud to have Ritz on the car now, as hopefully we can come out of here with the victory. Alright, there you heard myself on the radio now as we get ready to take the green flag now. As you see Austin Dillon having a stellar weekend, watch out for him. Zane Smith has been dominant all weekend, so look for him to be very fast. As you see Joey Logano, as we know, is our rival and very well could find himself being suspended if he runs into us on purpose here in tonight's race in the Coca-Cola 600. Now, as you guys know, there will be quite the lighting change here in stage 1 from replay mode to the gameplay mode now as we get underway though for the Coca-Cola 600 from the 22nd position, and here is the lighting change right here. You'll only have to really deal with it for stage 1 now as we get underway going down into turn 1. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., they lead the field to the green flag now as immediately we're looking for an opportunity to get down to that bottom right behind the 10 of Matt Benedetto, but couldn't quite get it right yet. But now as we would get clear of the 17 of Chris Buescher, we would drop down in behind that number 10 car for Stewart Haas Racing as we go down into turn 3 now in that 23rd position as Kyle Busch trying to hang on and lead this first and opening lap here in Charlotte. As you guys know, 4 stages here tonight in Charlotte. A very long race ahead of us, 100 laps now, a lot of time for anything to happen as I was starting to get aggressive right on the second lap here. Made it 3 wide down the back, past the Benedetto now as there was a car up in front of this pack right here holding up pretty much everybody. So that was getting a little bit frustrating, but it was a great opportunity for myself, so I was taking full advantage of it now as we were moving our way through the field very quickly here in just the first few laps of this race now as we would pass Kevin Harvick, 2014 Cup Series champion, now get in behind our teammate of Alex Bowman. So we came through to the end of lap 3, continuing to just go 3 wide, and it looked like it was actually the 0-2 of Eric Jones in the McLaren that was holding up everybody. So we went down into turn 1, and now we were already closing in on a top 10 position here in the Coca-Cola 600 as we're up the inside of that 0-2. We pass him, no problem at all now as we're up into 9th of the inside of Harrison Burton as we go down into turn 3. Christopher Bell having a solid run so far in P7, but of course only 4 laps in. Now is the 48. He forces it 3 wide up the inside as we exit turn 4. Now going down the front straightaway, he's showing a good chunk of speed. Bowman has had a bit of a rough season so far, finds himself currently outside of the playoffs now, in need of a good run here today as we would follow him past the 20 of Bell. Zane Smith, in the stories of the race, said he was dominant all weekend long so far, and he would prove that. He would go to the lead here in the Coca-Cola 600 now as I make a bit of a mistake there, slide up into the side of the 21, but fortunately we both keep it clean and we now move up into P7. Then I try to follow the 48 to the inside now of the 2 of Brad Keselowski, and then the caution would actually come out for the first time here today in Charlotte on lap 7 as Denny Hamlin, he was coming into the pit lane, and so was Quinn Helf. Now as I thought originally that Hamlin brought out the caution, but that was not the case. He was just coming into the pit lane because he's confident, I think, that he can make it to the end of this stage. So we will get ready to go green here on the inside lane, the preferred lane right behind our Hendrick Motorsports teammate of Alex Bowman. Keselowski on the outside of him as Zane Smith leads the field to the green. He's had a very up and down rookie season so far, currently on the outside of the playoffs, but with a dominant car like his already here today, he could find himself in victory lane at the end of this race. But definitely he was showing a lot of speed early on, so it's probably going to need to be some type of mishap to keep him from winning here tonight in Charlotte now, as he would love to win his way into the playoffs and get that first win of his rookie season, just like Chase Briscoe did last season in the career mode. He picked up 2 wins in his rookie season now as we come through the center of 3 and 4 of the inside now of Tyler Reddick as we come through on the exit of turn 4, going down this front straightaway now already to the inside of the 48 of Alex Bowman, who did not take off very well on that restart as we go down into turn 1. So we are going to move into the 4th position. As you can see up in front of us, Zane Smith already driving away from the field, so making it very just kind of clear how hard it's going to be to beat that 7 car. So we would now run down though the 18 and the 19 of Kyle Busch as well as Martin Truex Jr. and get battling it out with them now as we were approaching 10 laps to go in this first and opening stage now, as we had quite the good scrap here between myself, Kyle, and Martin. But eventually we would clear Kyle, get up the inside of Truex, and then sure enough on the exit of turn 4 on lap 15 we would be able to clear the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. just about, but he would fight back on the outside for a brief moment. But as we came through to hit 9 to go on the stage, we would clear the 19 car and now trying to run down Zane Smith as we go down into turn 1, but I kind of missed the bottom there, leave the door wide open for Kyle Busch, who goes up the inside, passes myself and Truex, and now he moves into 2nd place after we finally completed that pass to get to 2nd. We're right back down to P3. So now once again we have to kind of reset and try to make a pass on the 18 cars. I dive now to the inside now, as I unfortunately couldn't quite make anything work there. As we come through out of turn 4, but there's actually trouble behind us. Our affiliate teammate of William Byron blows the right front tire, hits the wall a couple times, and that's going to bring out the second caution already on the day here in the Coca-Cola 600, as that will be the end of William Byron's race. He's already won a race, locked himself into the playoffs. Nothing really affects him there, as we all came in for 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 tires, except for Denny Hamlin and Quinn Helf, who pitted on the last caution. So now they stay out and are in position to potentially, at least Hamlin, maybe steal a stage victory. Now Quinn Helf, he's just going to hold up everybody. So very fortunate that we are to be starting on the inside here, right behind Zane Smith now, as we go down into turn 1. I was anticipating to just kind of follow Smith through the field here, or through the couple cars in front of us, I should say. Now as we come through out of turn 2, already up the inside of the 00 of Quinn Helf here, as we pass him, no problem, unfortunately for Kyle Busch. He was stuck behind that 00 car as we go down into turn 3, and sure enough, Zane Smith makes it look easy, passing Denny Hamlin, the 3-time Daytona 500 champion from 2016, 2019, as well as 2020, as we go up the inside of Hamlin into turn 1 and 2, side by side with him as we come through out of the corner, trying to complete the pass and move into second place. But Smith, once again, was long gone. There was nobody that had a chance at him so far in this race as we go down into turn 3 in front of the 48 of Bowman. Then we came through the next lap later. I actually clipped the apron, slide up the track, and leave the door wide open for Bowman, as well as a few drivers, as I would get stuck on the outside. So drivers like Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, our rival, would get into the mix, and they were going to be able to drive by me really with no problem at all. So we came through down the back straightaway, still looking for my opportunity to get down to the inside. Austin Dillon's going to go by, and then we got Matt DiBenedetto up my inside into turn 3. Harvick would get to my inside now, as well as we came through to start the final lap now of stage 1. So we dropped all the way from 2nd to 8th place, just off of one little mistake of clipping that apron and getting stuck on the outside now, as I lunge to the inside of the 22 and make it 3 wide with Logano as well as Kevin Harvick as we go down into turn 3. I looked at that as my opportunity to get past that 22 in a safe manner without having him run into the back of us now, as we come through to turn 4, clearing them both, as Truex went up the inside of them as well, as we come through to finish in the top 10 in stage 1, as Zane Smith picks up the stage victory as we cross the line there for P6. Now, as fortunately Logano hasn't run into us yet, so as of right now, he is not going to find himself suspended. I think we have a really good car today, guys, but if we get stuck on the outside, we're really in trouble, and it showed right there. But honestly, I don't think we have anything for the 7, so we're going to need something to happen to him. But other than that, I think we have a car that can compete for the win in the right circumstances. Alright, so we would come to the pit lane here for 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 tires, as I make some small adjustments on the car right here on the pit lane, knowing that we have absolutely nothing for Zane Smith. I would actually put the grill tape up a little bit, and then I tried to think about messing with the wedge and stuff, and maybe the tire pressures. Now, as I really didn't do anything on the wedge, but I did eventually, I think, bump up the tire pressures and whatnot. But the grill tape was kind of the major thing there. I was hoping for just a little bit of something extra that we were kind of missing now as we get ready to go green here for the start of the second stage, as the sun has fallen very quickly here between stage 1 and stage 2. It looked like we had about a caution for an hour now, as we are underway though for the start of the second stage, and immediately I notice behind me we have our arrival of Joey Logano as we go down into turn 1. So that was a bit of a concern now as we go into the corner, and sure enough, he's going to get right into the back of us. He hasn't moved us out of the way yet, so he's still okay now as we come through out of turn 2 towards the back of the 10 of Matt DiBenedetto. But now turns 3 is going to be very interesting now, as I have no way of getting away from that 22 as we go down into the corner. Sure enough, Logano's going to put us into the outside while he goes sideways and destroys all the progress we made in that first stage from going from 22nd to the top 10 now, as we're side by side with Kyle Busch. And that right there is all it's going to take. Joey Logano, hands down, will be suspended at the end of this episode, I would assume, based off of what NASCAR said in their press release at the beginning of this video regarding his probation. Now, as we would now just try to get our way moving back forwards now as we came to the center of 1 and out of turn 2, but then the caution would actually come out here with 69 laps to go. Nice. But now just a lot of developments all of a sudden with Logano just blatantly putting us in the wall, and that will 100%, like I said, should be a suspension at the end of this episode. So now, though, we would be staying out and getting ready to go green once again, but like I said, a lot of kind of things developed right there out of nowhere. We would actually be starting 2 rows behind the 22. He will be able to finish this race still, but like I said, definitely I'm going to assume here after this race, NASCAR will announce the suspension as we would get back underway with 15 remaining, 15 laps remaining here in stage 2, as there's still a lot of racing to go, and we don't need to waste our time at all, or any time, with the 22 of Logano. Now, as surprisingly, Zane Smith Smith wasn't leading the way. Austin Dillon found himself out front now as we come through down this back straightaway up the inside here of Denny Hamlin as we go down into turn 3. Keselowski just behind myself. Kyle Busch trying to get around him on the outside now as we come through out of turn 4 now. As once the sun has fallen, things seem to be starting to pick up a little bit in terms of action as we're right on the back of that 22 of Logano as we try to re-enter the top 10. Zane Smith would actually take the lead back away from Austin Dillon, and he was trying to once again drive away from the field as I was stuck though, unfortunately, behind the 22 of Logano. I didn't want to mess with him whatsoever, so we came through out of turn 4, now clearing the 8 car, so I decided to lunge to the outside right here down the front straightaway as we came through the tri-oval. Not a lot of room between myself and Joey and the wall as we came through to 11 laps to go in stage 2, but I tried to make this outside work against him, but I could only really just kind of stay alongside him. I could never get clear of him, so we came through to lap 13, still side by side. Lap 14, we're still side by side with the 22 on the outside as he's making some contact. At this point, I don't really think he cares. Some more contact into turn 3 with the 22 of Logano. That time it kind of hurt my progress a little bit now as we came through to turn 4, but we would be able to run him right back down and get right into the mix now as we were on his back bumper into turn 3. Now on lap 15, but then I had some contact with our former teammate of Denny Hamlin. That time I just turned down a little bit too much, but I carried it all the way to the outside wall. So now we're back outside of the top 10 as Kyle Busch was up my inside, as stage 2 has been a completely different scenario compared to stage 1 now, as we once again just try to rally our way back forwards now up the inside of Kyle Busch and try to pass him and then get up the inside of De Benedetto now as Logano is actually being passed on the inside by a bunch of cars. So now I was deciding the outside didn't work, so I was thinking we might have to try the inside on Joey Logano as we go down into turn 3. I was pushing my teammate of Bowman right by him and then once again contact with the 22 of Logano, and at this point he knows he's probably going to get suspended, so I really don't think he cares if he makes my race miserable or not now as we came through trying to work my way forwards the best I can with that obstacle planted in our path now. So we cleared Benedetto again, and then Kyle Busch, he actually passes Joey Logano, so now I'm getting up into the mix as we came through out of turn 4. Some cars now coming into the pit lane within the final few laps of the stage as we came through, passing Logano, passing Kyle Busch, and a huge run here on the back now of Tyler Reddick as the 3 slowed up, and so did the 9 of Chase Elliott. So now we're up inside the top 5, but unfortunately I had a really bad entrance there, so we end up dropping back behind the 22 as well as De Benedetto. He got to my inside, but then we had the 3 of Austin Dillon run out of fuel into turn 3 as we were coming through to the final lap of the stage, so he's going to have to come to the pit lane. The 22 comes in, but a bunch of us still stay out because there was absolutely no need to come into the pit lane. We were good by about a lap or so, so we came through to start the final lap now of stage 2 here as we go down into turn 1, sending it in front of that number 10 of Matt De Benedetto, but Zane Smith, who's been dominant all night long, is going to actually be a lap down now as a caution comes out half a lap early here in stage 2, and that is going to be huge for Zane Smith as Chase Elliott actually picks up the stage victory, picks up a playoff point, but Zane Smith is going to now have to take the wave round. Fortunately for all the drivers that went a lap down pitting, everybody that's still on the lead lap really has to come into the pit lane here, so they will get the wave around and be back on the lead lap, but they will have to pit earlier than us in stage 3 if a caution does not come out. So you see Smith on back are going to get the wave around. Smith actually is going to get the lucky dog now, as we are really in a great position now because he has to work his way from the very back of the field to the front in now just 2 stages, and I do not think that's going to happen now. We'll have to see what he does here in stage 3 to see where he is at the end of the stage now, as we're back underway for the start of stage 3 now. So all of a sudden we find ourselves in P4 at the time of those pit cycles getting going. We were like 12th or something like that, so that really worked out in our favor now as we come through the center of 1 and 2 on the back of the 8 of Tyler Reddick. I actually tried to give Reddick a push, and that actually destroyed my momentum here, so I definitely learned for the future, maybe in some restarts later in the race as we go down into turn 3 side by side with Kyle Larson, who blows right on by me here as Keselowski is going to go through on the bottom as well. And unfortunately, we've been on the outside for a lot of these restarts, and we really do not need that happening, especially late in the race. So we came through out of turn 2 now, trying to get to the inside now as we go down this back straightaway, clearing Daniel Suarez, and I sliced to the inside just barely in front of him to get to the inside of the 2012 Cup Series champion of Brad Keselowski as we come through the center of 3 and out of 4. So by the time we came out of turn 2 the next lap, we would clear Brad Keselowski now as Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott, they drove away from the field. They were having a scrap of their own and still driving away from the field as I now make the pass on Kyle Larson. So we would then set our sights on these next group of cars of Tyler Reddick as well as Matt De Benedetto. And if you guys remember last season in the career mode, Matt De Benedetto picked up his first Cup Series career win in the 21 car in this very race, the Coca-Cola 600, as we dive down into turn 3 up the inside of Reddick. So now we're going to move through into the 4th position as we exit turn 4, and then it was really not that hard to get to the back of that 10 car and try to get up the inside of him as we came through down the back straightaway now on lap 10 of stage 3. As keep in mind, 4 stages, this is not the final stage as we go down into turn 3, though even with the 10 car and on the exit of turn 4, we have so much better drive off of the corner right there, especially in turn 4 compared to some of these other drivers, that I was able to complete the pass on the 10 and then try to run down the 18 and the 9 who were continuing to battle it out for the lead, but unfortunately I was gaining no ground whatsoever on the 18 and the 9 car. We were kind of even. I was losing a 10th here and there, which was a little bit frustrating, but they actually had a moment together because we had a car slow out of turns 4 blowing an engine. It looks like, I think that was Ryan Priest, so they actually got together in the middle of the corner slowing up, and that cost them about a whole second or so, so that would get me a little bit closer, and then they would actually start to open the gap back up. I had absolutely nothing for the 9 and the 18 at this point. Now as I clipped the outside wall on the exit of turn 4, and we were actually getting ready to make green flag pit stops here because we had 6 laps to go and we had nowhere near enough fuel to make it to the end. So Tyler Reddick, he came into the pit lane at the end of lap 18, then lap 19, myself, Chase Elliott, as well as the 10 of Matt DiBenedetto are all going to come in to the pit lane as Kyle Busch, he actually stayed out an extra lap now. So we would put 2 cans of fuel in the car, 4 fresh tires, and we came in a little bit behind the 9, and we actually, both myself and DiBenedetto beat the 9 car off the pit lane. So clearly a very poor pit stop for the 9 of Chase Elliott, and sure enough, Kyle Busch, he would actually just come onto the pit lane now as he was in that first position as Tyler Reddick, who came in a lap before all of us, passes all of us. So clearly showing off that fresh tire advantage as all of us would end up passing Kyle Busch as well. So his stage win completely is over, the chances of it anyways, as we come through out of turn 2. Elliott was so much faster than me. He got it up the inside, made the pass on us. Then I would actually have to get in behind the 10 of Matt DiBenedetto as we went down into turn 3. But down the back straightaway, approaching now the final lap of stage 3, we would get back up the inside of the 10 car now as we come through the center of the corner, and clearly showing though in this final, or in this third stage, approaching the final stage, that when we don't got Joey Logano trying to mess us up, we definitely have an opportunity here tonight to potentially race for a victory as we go down into turn 1 on this final lap in stage 3. Tyler Reddick looking for the stage victory. He picked up his first career win earlier this season, so he is locked in the playoffs. He needs every playoff point he can get, and he's about to pick up another one here as he comes through down the back straightaway into turn 3 for the final time here in stage 3 as Elliott trying to close the gap. Elliott clearly one of the fastest cars on the track right now as we come through out of turn 4. The 10 car, he would actually get up my inside as we went down this front straightaway, but not enough from DiBenedetto as we would get him at the line for P3 now as Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott get P1 and P2. So we get P3 in stage 3. Very happy with that now as it sets us up very well on the inside line potentially for the start of the final stage. Car is feeling really good right now, guys. I don't really think we need to change anything, but hopefully we can be lining up on the bottom here for the final stage. So we came into the pit lane for 2 cans of fuel, as well as 4 fresh tires, but something that was very interesting, Kyle Busch and Eric Almirola. They are both staying out for some reason at the end of the stage now, as Zane Smith, he's worked his way back into P8 here, so he might have a chance to get back into the mix before this race is over, so he could really get into kind of messing it up for myself, Chase Elliott, Matt DiBenedetto, and whatnot. But actually, Smith had a poor pit stop, now outside the top 10, so now we can pretty much write him off moments later, as Kyle Busch and Eric Almirola lead the field to the green flag for the start of the 4th and final stage here in the Coca-Cola 600. 23 laps to go, and I was very frustrated being up here on the outside. I was go down into turn 1, was really hoping with that 3rd place in stage 3 that we would get to line up behind the 9 car. Did not happen because we beat Tyler Reddick off of the pit lane, and so did the 9 of Chase Elliott, and you immediately see the effect as Almirola, he is slow as we go down into turn 3, so we need to find a way around him very quickly or get down to that bottom very quickly now as we come to the center of the corner now, trying to look to the outside of the 43, some contact with him, but I really didn't care at this point. It was desperate there to get past him, and now we complete the pass, get down in front of Suarez, slice over, look up the inside of Keselowski. We made that same move pretty much earlier between Suarez as well as Brad Keselowski as we come to the center now of turns 1 and out of turn 2. So Chase Elliott leads the way over Kyle Busch, who's now under attack from Reddick as well as Matt DiBenedetto, and Kyle's call to stay out as well as Almirola's would not really work, as you can see now the 18 fading in the distances. I would now run him down, get to his inside as we went down into turn 3. Now we're approaching 20 laps to go here in the Coca-Cola 600 now, as it looks like it's going to be a 4-car race between myself, DiBenedetto, Reddick, and Elliott. But the unfortunate part was Elliott was driving away, so I knew I had to get a move on it here because it could stay green. This this whole third stage like it pretty much did in stage 3. So we come through up the inside of the 10 of DeBenedetto on the exit of turn 4, nearly into the side of him now as I'm giving everything I got to complete this pass. A little bit of contact between us now as we came to the 18 to go as we go down into turn 1, and now we move up into that third position, but he fights back on our doors. We come through out of turn 2, but we have that exit that I mentioned earlier that just seems to be better than these other drivers. So we clear him, run down Tyler Reddick now, and then we would actually get a caution approaching 17 laps to go here in the Coca-Cola 600. So we all now have to come to the pit lane. I decide to just put half a can of fuel in the car, and then we do 2 tires. I was in between no tires, 4 tires, 2 tires, ended up deciding with 2 tires after I went back and just kind of looked up past races that we've had at this track from NASCAR Heat 4 to NASCAR Heat 5. So we are in store for what could be the final restart of the night here in the Coca-Cola 600. This is a very big one now as we're finally in position on the bottom behind Elliott now, as thank goodness we're in this spot. We're not going to have to find a way to the bottom. We are underway with 14 laps to go, and Denny Hamlin, he's now kind of gotten up into the mix behind us in that 5th spot as we go down into turn 1. I was debating between pushing the 9 or laying off him. I decided to give him a push now. As I can see, we're going to clear the 8 car out of turn 2, so now we go down this back straightaway and we have a chance between myself and Chase Elliott to fight it out for the victory here in Charlotte now as we go down into turn 3 in front of Denny Hamlin now, but the car just does not stick whatsoever on the bottom. Reddick to the outside, Hamlin to the inside, 3 wide in the middle we are as we go down the front straightaway now, as that completely caught me off guard as we cross the line. So now down into 4th place as I dive up the inside of Hamlin, make it 3 wide with him and Reddick, and once again though the car does not stick. Harvick goes up the inside now as he's 3 wide. Hamlin backs out of it. He has nothing to do with it as I clip the outside wall though on the exit of turn 2, chasing the car up the track, and we've completely thrown our chances of victory out the door here as we go down into turn 3. Hamlin 6 on down in 7th, and I just could not believe it. The car did not stick into the bottom lane on any of the corners, and now we've paid the price. I hit the outside wall, and I'm doing everything I can to just try and rally back towards the top 5, and I just couldn't gain anything at this point, so I just kind of accepted defeat at this point, as now Harvick, he was running down Chase Elliott for the lead in the final 10 laps of this race, but I finally start to get a little bit of hope as we came to 9 to go. Hamlin would get up the inside of Harrison Burton, but I realized now I'm closing in on the back of both of them, so we get up the inside of Harrison Burton, but I still could not believe I made that mistake there. Hitting the outside wall just made things so much worse, but I just chased the car up the track the whole corner, and that's what happened. But we would get up the inside now of Denny Hamlin after passing Burton, but only 6 laps to go as Harvick was putting a ton of pressure on the back of Chase Elliott, who's still outside the playoffs. Both of those drivers are on the outside of the playoffs right now, as Elliott and Harvick have had some rough seasons, both looking for their very first win this season. As we came to 5 laps to go, we continue to somehow just kind of rally our way back forward as we close in towards the back of our former teammate of Martin Truex Jr. Harvick had now taken the lead from Elliott, but we came through approaching 3 laps to go up the inside of Truex. A bit of an aggressive move there, but we make it work. Some contact out of turn 4 as now Elliott, he's back up the inside of Harvick as they're going to scrap it out for the victory as we come through to 3 laps to go. We would run down Tyler Reddick approaching now 2 to go, and once again, just like Truex, we get up the inside through the center of the corner. Some contact with him as well as Harvick continues to lead the way as we come through to start the final 2 laps here in the Coca-Cola 600. Who's going to get the victory, Harvick or Elliott? We're about to find out as we go down into turn 1. We clear the 8 of Tyler Reddick now, but he's going to fight back on that outside side by side. I was just hoping that a caution was going to come out, but at this point, obviously, it is not going to happen here as we go down this back straightaway side by side, dueling it out for P3 is now Elliott. Tries to look up the inside of Harvick as we approach the final lap here in the Coca-Cola 600, but the caution comes out moments before the white flag flies for Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott, and now this is going to force an overtime restart just as we moved into the 3rd position, so we will get a second chance at that inside line 3rd place start. I was hoping that would happen, and I am so glad it did now. Just before, though, we get going here into the restart, you kind of see this site's outside of Charlotte Motor Speedway right now, overlooking the night sky there, as you see in the background Charlotte Motor Speedway, as we get ready to take the green flag for an overtime restart here in Charlotte. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, and myself, 1, 2, 3, Reddick 4th. Elliott was almost in P1 at the time of the caution, but unfortunately is now P2 as overtime is underway here in the Coca-Cola 600. P3 is exactly where we want to be now as we actually get a very solid launch compared to the 4 car, and I'm not going to waste any time. We make it 3 wide for the lead with 2 laps to go as we go down into turn 1 side by side with Harvick and Elliott, and we're going to clear Harvick, but Chase Elliott, he's going to try and fight back to my outside as Harvick falls in line just behind myself in front of the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. are a lap and a half to go here in Charlotte. Elliott fights back to our door as we go down into the third turn. Got to be very careful here because we knew in the last restart the car did not stick. This time it does. I was a little bit more delicate now as we're even with the 9 down the front straightaway, coming through to the final lap here on the Coca-Cola 600. We barely lead the lap over the 9 of Elliott as we're side by side down into turn 1. Harvick ready to pounce in P3. Elliott needs this win very, very badly now as I'm just looking for my 3rd win on the season in our first crown jewel Coca-Cola 600 victory as we're side by side down the back straightaway. Elliott with the advantage as we go down into turn 3 for the final time now, as we're going to have to send it if we want to be able to win this race as we slide up the track on the exit of turn 4 side by side with the 9 of Elliott. Harvick makes it 3 wide coming to the line down the front straightaway, 3 wide for the win, but it's Chase Elliott picking up the victory here in the Coca-Cola 600 as Harvick also just ever so slightly got us at the line by what appears to be about 1,000th of a second. What a finish it was here in Charlotte. In overtime, Elliott comes out with the victory as I was not trying to let him win whatsoever. I didn't care if he needed that win to get in the playoffs. I really wanted to beat him there and get that 3rd win on the season with the crown jewel victory, but unfortunately it just didn't quite happen. But what a race in Charlotte and what a finish it was here in overtime. So we were really close in reality to being able to pick up that victory, but unfortunately just came up just a little bit short here in Charlotte. But overall, a great race to say the least. Now, as I hope you guys enjoyed that finish to say the least. That was so action-packed there at the end. And then we had the contact with our rival of Joey Logano, who put us in the wall, and that leads to some breaking news here from NASCAR themselves after Charlotte. NASCAR announces Joey Logano will be suspended for 1 race after the contact with myself in the Coca-Cola 600, where he intentionally put us in the outside wall while being on probation once again. So Team Penske will work to find a fitting replacement. We will work with both Owen and Joey to make sure this isn't going to be a lasting issue in the future. So now there you have the confirmation that Joey Logano will be suspended for at least 1 race here in the career mode. Now, as we will be going to Texas in the Truck Series up next, we got Mid-Ohio in the Xfinity Series, and then of course we got the Pocono doubleheader coming up as well in the Cup Series side of things. But of course before that we got Kansas and whatnot, so Logano will be missing Kansas. I think I know who is going to replace him. I think I might put Austin Cindric in that 22, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, as you see, though, Elliott locked in the playoffs with that victory, as Briscoe is currently the last car in. But before we end this episode, I just want to thank you to the Goin Racing members of MJ, Aiden, Tony, Dylan, Joseph, RJ, Timothy, Bubba Jr., Mr. Johnson, NASCAR on Docks, Devin Roth, Eric Schwett, as well as Matthias Hansen. You guys helped me out a ton, and I want to say thank you once again, and thank you to everybody who also does the super chats and whatnot. Anyone who watches it all and supports me, it really does help, and I would like to thank you all personally each and every time that I can for doing that. So I'll see you guys out in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.